Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Expanse Season 5 review. Today, we actually got a really packed show because the Expanse dropped 3 episodes all at once, and they're going to be doing weekly episodes this season. But before we get into the review and reaction, I'm super excited to be back here with Ashaya from History of Westeros. It's actually been... I think it's been over a year since DragonCon, where we actually got to talk to Wes and Steven together. So we're going to talk about that. But Ashaya, welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I am very, very excited to be talking about The Expanse. I'm very happy that they're doing weekly episodes because it means that we have time to be able to talk about it every week. Very, very exciting stuff.
Yeah, and the first 3 episodes... they were really good. So we're basically what you're going to witness today is us gushing about the episode as big Expanse fans. We want to welcome everyone in the chat. I see Lady Leaf Underhill, Andrew. I see MSN. I see Vlad. I think he took off, though. Amy, and I'm sure some other people will come and chat. Thanks for joining. It's going to be a fun discussion. What we're going to kind of do today, we're going to talk a little bit about our Expanse, how me and Ashaya came to work together for The Expanse. A quick story first, and then we're going to get into the episodes, 3 of them. The Exodus, which is episode 1 of season 5, and then we have Churn, which is going to be pretty interesting to talk about. I think that was my favorite episode of the 3, and then Mother. It's all really great episodes, all have something great to talk about. We'll do some character analysis. We'll talk about our favorite plots, some favorite quotes, and yeah, we encourage you to get into the conversation too. So when we're talking about a specific topic, we want you to chime in the live chat and let us know what you think as well. So Ashaya, let's start off with the story of how we got to kind of work together with The Expanse. So DragonCon is a con that happens in Atlanta. I think it's the second biggest in the United States, next to San Diego Comic-Con as far as people showing up for a weekend. And I started going about 3-4 years ago, and I got to meet you guys. I actually got to stay at your house, which is really cool. We became friends from A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, but we share another common interest, which is The Expanse. And last year, I was actually supposed to have someone else to come cover DragonCon with me. They couldn't end up coming, and you ended up being my partner in crime for DragonCon 2019. So that was super fun.
Yeah, in previous years, we had gone to a bunch of Expanse panels in the past. We even did the Expanse photo shoot, the photo hour. I've never done that for another show, but it was right after it had been picked up by Amazon. And I was like, okay, I have to support them. Take my money. Take all of my money. So we did that, but we got to see a bunch of really good panels of theirs. And then finally, last year, we got to interview 2 of them, which was very exciting.
Yeah, so the year previously, really lucky. When you get press passes, sometimes they'll have some of the guests come party. They do you can go chat with the other reporters that are going to be covering the event. I got to chat with Cass Anvar and Dominique Tipper just briefly the year before. But you only get to apply for a certain amount of interviews. And I thought there was a 0% chance of us getting Steven and Wes. But they chose to come talk to us. And there was only one other set of reporters. And we got to interview Wes and Steven. And it was just absolutely fantastic. And the reason we are bringing this up is because we kind of got a little bit of a lens into their energy and excitement for season 5, because they spoke about how this was the favorite thing that they worked on as far as The Expanse goes, and they were just basically upping the hype for me and Ashaya. Our hype levels were already pretty high, but they really went in and kind of without spoiling anything, let us know what they thought of season 5 and how it was going to come across to fans.
Yeah, I think it's always great when you can tell that the cast of a show is so passionate about it and that they love the source material too. I just think that's great, and it adds a lot to their performance.
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of the quick little story. We are lucky enough to have been blessed by Wes and Steven's presence, and we're just huge fans of the show, obviously. But that kind of makes it even more exciting for us to talk about season 5, because the first 3 episodes were awesome. So, Ashaya, what was your initial impression of the episodes?
Oh man, initial impression of the episodes. It was a lot all at once. I mean, we got 3 episodes, like a whole movie right there. My initial impression was that we saw a very different side to a lot of the characters that we hadn't seen before. From Amos and Naomi and Drummer, I think most particularly. But we see Sarala. She's very sad and lacking in power. We see, Holden, he's alone and feeling lonely, and he just hasn't really experienced that. I don't know. I just think we got to see another side to all of them.
Yeah, we definitely got to see each character in a different sort of moment. We got to watch, we're going to talk a little bit about this throughout the live stream today, the Aftermath podcast that Wes Chatham is doing with Ty Frank and some of the other people. He had Thomas Jane on. He had, I believe, also Naren Shakar. I believe I'm saying his name correctly, and they also had Steven on. But they talked about the theme of isolation, and me and you talked about a couple days ago, just right after we had watched the episodes, the theme of family, which is the first time we're really seeing the Expanse crew split up. We saw basically 4 seasons of building towards these really tight relationships. These they're out in space together. It's very, very difficult to survive all of these things, especially the things that they're doing, going to rogue planets and taking on aliens. But it is a really different dynamic this season. And it's funny because the Expanse story is expansive. I'm trying not to be punny here today, but it really felt grounded and connected, even though our characters are now in different places.
Yeah, I totally agree. Completely agree. Definitely the scope of the show is bigger than it's ever been. And you're talking about family. We see the fracturing, obviously, of the Rocinante. And I liked, in that after show that we're talking about, we'll definitely cite some things, but I really want to encourage people to go watch it. They're each about half an hour. And on the Prime Videos YouTube account, you can look it up. But Ty Frank pointed out that Holden is starting to build a new family. He just kind of can't resist surrounding himself with people, and you can see Fred and Monica and Bull, people that he's going to start interacting with. So we see that building, and then something I noticed immediately, which is that Drummer has formed her own family of this polyamorous Belter family. So we see a new, different kind of crew, how they live together in space in this small ship.
It's nice to see that represented. I mean, the Expanse has always been pretty exclusive, but the representation has really been up to notch this season. I think that that's been a really nice thing to see. We talked about the themes of family and obviously isolation. The title of the first episode, we'll kind of get into all the episodes. We won't necessarily go chronologically because we'll pull some things from each thing. But the title of the first episode is Exodus, which fits with the idea of the fracturing of the Rocinante and the fracturing of these families. We see, Cass is on his own. He's kind of going out to do his own thing. He's seeking a journey to reconnect with his family, and that's not working out as well as he would like it to. We see kind of Bobby's doing her own thing. She's kind of on her own in this very dangerous mission, yet she's connected to Avasarala, who's not the Queen of Earth anymore. And we see all these characters in these different situations. I don't want to say they're in crises quite yet, but they're in these situations where they're outside of their comfort zones and they're testing themselves. And I think we saw brilliant character development for most of our POV characters in these first 3 episodes.
Yeah, I 100% I agree. One scene that I want to talk about that showed a lot of that character development right off the bat is from episode 1, that Amos shower fight, which I learned a lot about from that after show, which is that it wasn't originally edited like that. Naren Shakar, the showrunner, he said something wasn't working, and so they cut it up, and he also credits editor Stephen Roque, and they filmed this whole elaborate stunt sequence only for them to cut it into just a few seconds, but it works so well. It says so much.
Yeah, there was a lot of that type of filming in these first 3 episodes, like putting an idea into your head and not necessarily like giving you the whole fight, but having an impact, like an emotional impact on you. Like Amos says these very powerful words because he knows these people are being manipulated, right? And he's not going to let that stand because he's a person who's experienced a similar type of bullying in his life, so he's not going to let that slide with these kinds of people. And I was like, oh my God, we're really going to, I mean, it's mentioned in, we have a favorite quotes here. It's mentioned in my favorite quotes here, Shea. So you have to ask yourself, how much damage do you think I could do in 2 minutes before the gas gets to me? Because I'm betting it's a lot. And when I heard that, I was like, it actually sent chills down my spine. Even though we know Amos can be violent, we know how loving he can be as well. So in this moment, he's being protective for these people who know who knows they can't defend themselves like he can defend himself. So he steps up, and we don't get to see the fight, but yet we get to see the aftermath of that. And that was so impactful because we see that it's almost like Amos is taking on this damage for other people. You know what I mean? It's like this sin eater. And that's kind of what I likened to Amos. And I really, really enjoyed that because it showed that Amos does have a heart despite he's doing this violent thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think that we see that the death of Lydia has kind of cracked him a little bit, that it's opened up his emotional core and made him think about his past, I think.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
And we haven't heard that much about Amos's past over the past 4 seasons, but they really opened it up in the first 3 episodes. Amos is, very excited to go on this journey. He doesn't necessarily want to have to take care of these affairs for someone that was very influential in his life, but learning about Amos's backstory and just how different he is than we think he really is. There's a lot of different layers to Amos than we think, than this big brute.
Yeah, definitely. With the Amos plotline, obviously there's the Lydia stuff, but I really appreciated seeing Eric, a friend for him, someone he grew up with and clearly has this close relationship with, enough so that one of my favorite quotes actually was just when Eric said goodbye, he said, "I love you and I miss you," which it just says a lot right there that they really had a very close relationship.
Yeah,
so I appreciate that.
It's interesting. I pointed out to you yesterday, I believe he's in one of the Expanse groups on Facebook that we share together. He was in that group, and he was receiving a bunch of praise from BSA and all the people who run that group. And he did a really terrific performance. But what preceded what he said after that, Shea, was even funny too. He's like, "But yeah, if I ever see you again in my city, I'm gonna kill you." So it was like this machismo love. You know what I mean? So.
And another cool thing about that actor, Jacob Mundell, is that they actually cast an actor that has a disability, that he was born without his left hand. And so I think that is another great example of the Expanse being inclusive and going the extra mile.
Yeah, one thing the Expanse does try to do is they realism is a thing, like like with all of the space physics, the inclusion of that, but also the inclusion of different types of relationships, like the polyamory with Kamina Drummer and just having people with disabilities like that. So I feel like the Expanse is kind of really setting the bar as far as, I mean, especially for a show that's set in the future. You would think that we would be more accepting of these kinds of things in the future. We're not where we are right now. I think we'll be hopefully a little bit more advanced. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say 100% that The Expanse sets the bar. I don't think I can think of a show that does a better job, honestly, of just having people of color featured, women, and they didn't have a lot of gay representation, but they have it. They don't make a big point of it, but I mean, we had Anna, was this lesbian pastor, Paolo Cortazar, who we saw a little bit of. Obviously, he was referenced. He's gay. Just little things like that, and so it's nice now to see even more of that in like a featured character.
So we're probably going to talk about Amos and Kamina Drummer a lot. Holden, obviously, these are our main POV characters, but we got to see some surprises in the first couple of episodes too, Shea. And one thing that I mentioned is Fred Johnson Chad Coleman from The Wire, one of my favorite shows. Cuddy-wise, he was one of my favorite characters. And I was always hoping for more because we went to a couple panels at DragonCon where he got to speak and he had some really interesting insights. And I was like, I really hope that they expand his part. And like, for me, I haven't read the books, although we will talk about the fifth book. I haven't read the fifth book, so we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But Ashaya, you knew a little bit more about me than this. So, but the fact that he's getting included in the Tycho plot line and it just felt really natural, like all of the lines he had with Holden, their connection was really solid. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, especially because what, is Fred just gonna drop off the map and just not be part of anything? No, he's very important and he's close with the Rocinante crew and funds them in a lot of ways, obviously. But no, I was definitely very glad to see Chad Coleman and curious still if they'll manage to get Jared Harris back for Anderson Dawes. They've kind of managed to skirt around that pretty well. People really want him, but he's a hot commodity.
Yeah, he's in a lot of different movies, and he's played a bunch of different villains that I really like, and he does a great job. And I have my suspicions that he's actually the mole person that's kind of subverting things on Tycho. I'm just thinking of terms of people that want power in that vicinity. I'm just thinking that he could be someone that might be meddling in things. But like I said, we didn't see him yet. But it was just a kind of a gut feeling that I got that we could be seeing more of him. But yeah, I really one other thing that I really actually loved from the first episode to share was the conversation between Holden and Fred Johnson. And we have seen Holden make his arc has really grown as well. Like him as a person, his personal growth, he kind of went from this person that wasn't so sure about all of the decisions that he's making into someone that's more confident and someone that we can trust as far as trying to safeguard humanity. You know what I mean? When he talks about the protomolecule, he knows his shit. Like I'm going to trust what that guy says because he's been in the thick of things, especially with what happened in the last season. But I love the conversation between him and Fred Johnson because he's like, listen, like, I see the protomolecule as a threat, and you guys are experimenting with it. What in the hell are you doing?
And I think that reminds me of Monica in particular, gets to that plot, which is that she's really getting at that, and Holden kind of accuses her of kind of just trying to be sensationalistic, you know, that's what she is going to get people watching. But really, she is right to be concerned about this sort of thing, and she convinces Holden eventually after getting kidnapped and all that. Just all that, that's all that took. So I think Holden is going to have to realize that he can't just, take it easy at Tycho while everyone's gone.
It's interesting you say that because we talked about her privately. She's a fantastic actress. Like she aggravates you it's like she does such a good job with her character. Like she can aggravate you in the way that her character is supposed to, and that means she's doing her job properly. But one thing that I really liked her character, and it's kind of tying in with all the other characters and what I believe is happening in the first 3 episodes of this season, we see another side of the character that we didn't necessarily think. We took this person at face value because of their previous actions, but there's actually another layer to this character. This character truly does want the people to have the right information about what's going on in the galaxy, and if their lives are at risk, she really actually does care about that. So I thought that was like a really big surprise for me, and I'm actually really liking this character now. I like her character.
I've always liked your character. I like any character really that gets at asking questions of people, that asks some hard-hitting questions, that just causes that to come up, like with her when she was in season 3, obviously talking to Amos and just pushing and prodding at the wounds. So as irritating as she could be to the characters, I like her for sure. I think she's a great actress, and I like the character.
In the second Aftermath after show, Steven Strait says she did this one scene in one take, and he was like, oh my God, she was terrifying. She was like so good at what she was doing, and that's one of the things I like that I really took away from kind of the first 3 after shows. And then we recommend people, you can find it on Amazon Prime Video. It's Prime Video YouTube channel, right, Ashaya, where you can find them?
Yeah, for those after shows. And while we're talking about that, I guess I should mention that if you can also go to Amazon X-Ray, which depends on what you're using. Press up on your remote or click the X-Ray button. You can figure that out. But in the X-Ray, they have all the concept art for each episode, behind the scenes photos, another little after show that they're like 5 minutes long, so not as in depth, but another after show. So it's really, really cool stuff right there. And you get to see like who's in each scene, etc. So
yes,
check that out.
Sometimes that's good for me. Like I was trying to figure out Admiral Delgado, and I forgot his character's name, and I went back to watch the scene, and I pressed X-ray, and I just kept it on for a little bit so I can get it into my brain, so we can have a nice discussion, and I won't forget all the characters' names, because there is a lot of characters, especially for 3 episodes. But that's a really nice feature too. It's like I always like to keep subtitles on, but that's kind of going the extra mile. It's kind of like extra information for each episode if you're kind of into that sort of thing.
Yeah, not to wax poetic about Amazon, but I will say that Amazon Prime is actually my favorite of the video streaming services because of things like X-Ray. I think that's just really innovative, and I think more things should do that for sure. And now I'm extra fond because they're doing weekly releases, so I'm glad they're doing that.
And the accessibility for people, all sorts of people who may, like subtitles may help, but this is going the extra mile for people that may need it. So I think that's really cool. So yeah, let's talk about a little bit more about episode 1, Ashaya. What really stood out to you?
In episode 1 in particular, I would say that that's a hard question. I really focused more on the next couple episodes.
Because the Naomi stuff was pretty like I felt from all the way from episode 1 to episode 3, there was like this deep sadness within Naomi, like this deep longing. Even though she was in the company of Holden, someone that loves her unconditionally, she felt isolated away from her child.
Yeah, and I pointed this out on Twitter, which they have a nice live tweeting thing going on every week that you should join in on. But I noted that I really like that Naomi set this boundary with Holden. It makes him really sad when she says she doesn't want him there, but it's the truth. And sometimes you don't want someone there supporting you. Straight up. And that is a form of loneliness, and she's very sad about her son, but I think it's also a journey for herself, for her alone.
I think so too, and I think it's also she knows how dangerous Marcos Inaros is, right? She knows. I mean, she created a child with him, and she's obviously not with him now, but she knows how dangerous he is, and she also loves Holden, and she's also worried that if Holden goes with her, she mentions this straight up to Holden, like Holden is known. He's like a hero within all of these worlds and galaxies. You know what I mean? Like he's known. Holden is this space cowboy that's known out there, and she feels as if he's with her, that will draw her more attention, and that will be more difficult for her to try to make the kind of underhanded moves that she may need to do with all the Belters.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I would agree with that.
So the Naomi stuff, all of her scenes are absolutely terrifically acted, all the way through episode 3. Some of the unexpected things, I thought things were going to go a little bit more differently. I didn't. Obviously,
tell me about that. I'm curious. That's one of the things I really want to get into. This is where you were surprised, because I'm a book reader, so there were less surprises for me, fewer surprises. But yeah, what was this for you?
I mean, she got captured really early. I mean, like episode 3 was a banger because a couple of unexpected things happened. First, Naomi's in a lot of trouble now, and I was actually surprised at how bloodthirsty her son was, like straight up murdering people on the Venus space station. That research station. I thought that maybe they would just, leave them out there with no communications and stuff like that. But it does make sense to leave no trace if you're going to do something like launch space rocks with stealth tech at Earth. So that kind of really surprised me, because we know Naomi as this very compassionate and empathetic character, despite having her own kind of very strong independence. But then we see the Marcos Inaros side in Philip and that influence. And he's had the strong influence over his life and, revolving around his life as opposed to Naomi's influence and mother's influence.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up that I had been wondering about, and that the creators that Ty and Dan that they clarified was when Naomi is kidnapped, right? When she's grabbed. It really seemed like Sin and Coral, those are the two people she was with, that they were surprised, that was unexpected to them. In the books, I'll just say, Marco wants her to come. But they pointed out that in the show, it was not planned. Philip chooses to do this. So I think that'll be relevant going forward. I feel like it's worth a little bit of context there that this is out of nowhere for them. Because they were very close to her, Sin and Coral. Like, you see that, how close she is with the man in particular, and how mad Coral is with her.
So yeah, that's a surprising thing. I see some awesome comments in chat, by the way. I see Andrew Gilbert says, ugly truth is she's also killed a bunch of people with the code. With her own code, she's going to have to face that as well. Everybody kind of has their own demons, which is true. But I do want to mention this because I do think we have some book readers in chat. I am going to go get the book this weekend, but do you think I should read the books, and should we talk about book stuff if we're going to be doing this kind of format? If you're interested in that, I know a few of you haven't, but let me know if you think that I should read the books. I'm pretty sold on it. I'm thinking that I could read it over, the 24th, 25th, and 26th, and kind of get it all down. I'm like 90% sold towards reading it.
You can also read slightly along with the book, potentially. I don't know if that would work, but for example, I wrote down that what we saw in these first 3 episodes is roughly the first 18 to 22 chapters. They move the plots around so much that it's not a perfect one-to-one, but if you read those first chapters, you're not spoiled going forward. Also relevant, I suppose, to anyone else. I was curious what part of the book we were at. I'm going to keep making note of that and letting you guys know, because I enjoy rereading the book.
One thing that's noted here by History of Westeros, I'm assuming this is Aziz, Marco is so persuasive and charismatic. We haven't seen that much of Marcos yet, but it seems that he is. And I know we're going to see a lot more of him, but you can see how he's rallied people, even with this very extreme idea. And I think
we see that last season. Obviously, I don't know how he got you last season, but he's a very convincing speaker. He's a handsome guy.
He's a handsome guy. That always helps. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, convincing people. That's a trait of some strong leaders throughout history, being good looking, being able to captivate people's eyes, which is important. And I think obviously his words, Belters have been oppressed, right?
Yeah, there's validity in his statement. There is.
So I think that some people, despite his actions, might agree with some of his machinations, which is why he's a very interesting villain, so to speak.
Yeah. Sure is. For me, with this Naomi stuff, just the whole plot line, it's amazing work, but it's painful to see her interact with Philip there. That first interaction between the two of them, the sound kind of goes out. There's just no sound while they look at each other. And it's really sad to see the son reunited with the mother who abandoned him when he was, a child. I mean, a baby.
I don't think she has the highest of expectations, because she knows he probably feels a sense of abandonment, which is what happened. But, I think that the way it goes down must have been even more heartbreaking for all the words he said. You know what I mean? Like, he just straight up tells her, fuck you. He's like, fuck you. And I was like, whoa. Like,
I mean, I compared it to the idea that like your parent just comes back out of the blue and offers you like a kind of not a very good car, because that's not a good freighter, just offers you a car and says, I'll support you, I swear. And what are you supposed to say to that?
Yeah, it's no Razorback for sure.
If she's trying to buy his affection, she's not doing a good job.
Wow, that's just absolutely rude of Naomi Nagata to do for her son.
Yeah,
figure she would get a nice whip. She does say she would support him. I'll give you all the money you need and all of that, but.
But how can you believe someone you don't know? Like,
you have to gain somebody's trust. I mean,
that ignores the fact that he's totally brainwashed and programmed into everything, that even he would never do it anyways, no matter what the situation was. But
as a young man, I had very different thoughts than I do as an older man, as I do now. So as a young man, you were much more impressionable. And I think having spent most of his life with his dad, seeing what he's done, just proving his love for him and what he thinks is love, is going to be really interesting to see how that unfolds through the season and into season 6. Because it looks like Marcos is going to be the big bad for the next 2 seasons, and is my guess.
I guess we'll see there, Kyle. We got to hear all your guesses about all these things as we go forward.
So we both agree. So like we did episode MVPs. Is there an MVP that you would have? I mean, because you wrote down a few different ones. I think we both agree that Amos and Drummer have both had really strong performances, because they kind of showed the spotlight on both of those characters. But you also put Naomi too. So I
did, for sure, because those are the 3 I think we do see the most of a different side of them, and Naomi did have a lot of really subtle things to act. So I really liked her, of course, but I think Drummer was number 1 for me, because she is so severe normally, so it really was such a difference to see her, like, getting out of the shower, sitting there in her towel, like close to tears, listening to a message from Ashford, which was, I think she did really good work there for sure. She always does. They all always do, but I think she was my number 1.
Yeah, Kara G is excellent. She's part of the Expanse family, of course. That's one thing that I also really liked about these episodes, is showing we got a lot more time with Kamina Drummer than I thought we were going to get. That was a surprise for me, a nice surprise. And we learned another side of her as well. Even though she can be considered to be a space pirate, she's like, listen, like she was like telling people that she's more than that. She's like, you will respect me. Like when she's what's that one ship's name? You have it written down, Ashea.
When she's going after, first she has they have the Dualt, the Motang, and then she gets the Tynan.
Yeah, it was the Motang. Is that the one they shot down?
I actually don't know which ship was which. I know that she has multiple ships now, which is a big deal, that she's really becoming a faction leader. A small armada, as he says.
Yeah, she says she has 3 ships as opposed to 1 ship. So that was something that's... Numbers are good. But one thing that I really liked about what she was doing is that she commanded respect. And she's like, listen, I'm not just a space pirate, I'm a leader. And I love how she spoke up for herself. And she's like, listen, the things that are going on, we're going after Marcos Inaros. Claes Ashford was someone that I respected, and someone that should be respected, because he and you can kind of see the reaction when she finds the ship too, the Tynan, about how people feel about him. Like their eyes went, oh, like that's a big deal. They found his ship. Oh shit, that means a lot to Kamina. And you can tell her face, she's holding in her emotions to be strong in front of her people in that moment. But then we see a different side of her when she goes in the back and she goes and listens to the recording. You can see that there was, this, like the title of the episode, this paternal relationship almost between Claes and Kamina. You know what I mean? There's that much respect there between the two of them. And I think they did love each other because they understood their way of life. They experienced similar things. And I think that was a really nice tie-in to the episode Mother. It just didn't mean mother. It meant paternal relationships, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And obviously Drummer feels, not rightfully, but she does feel guilty, responsible for Ashford being killed. And I mean, we've seen that Marco drops the rock. We see a rock fall. There's no spoilers there. So she's not going to feel too great about that either, I don't think. So I think she's going to be kind of feeling sorry for herself for a bit this season. I hope that she is cheered up by her family. which was a nice surprise. I want to take a second, actually, while we're talking about Drummer, to mention that, to go over her family right here. There is a character in the books who has a polyamorous family. It's called a ketubah. It's a 7-person marriage on a ship, right? This character, Michio Pa, is a popular character, a POV character, but it seems like they're combining it with Drummer. I won't get dragged down into that, but Michio is one of the members of Drummer's pod. You might not have caught that unless you were using X-Ray or looking at the subtitles, but one of their names is Michio. The other names, we have Oksana Bush, who's played by Sandrine Holt, who is known for being in gay things because she was in The L Word. She's been in a lot of other things. I liked her in Mr. Robot. But we've got Oksana Bush, who is the main one that we saw. Joseph, Michio, Berthold, and Serge. And I have a little bit of fun insight into that. I asked the Expanse Writers Room, and I highly recommend interacting with them on Twitter because they actually reply to questions and engage with you. It's really nice. And I asked them about Drummer's family, and they said that Drummer's family was already a pod before she joined. Oksana was the matriarch. Drummer became the leader of their faction/family after she joined. So a little fun fact about that, and I imagine we'll see more of that play out.
To your point, what you were talking about previously about how she's going to feel bad. I think all of our characters that are scattered, like when they're together, they feel stronger. But down to the fact that they're scattered and we had one rock at least dropped on Earth. We know that there are several rocks. So I'm expecting maybe we got a bit of a rude awakening opening at the opening of the next episode. We'll see that there is more than one to hit. But what she says is pretty interesting, Ashaya, and the way she acts, I think that she's gonna take that as kind of well, shit, I need to really get things done now because I feel partially responsible, so I need to help clean up this mess because she's a belter, Marcos is a belter, she can't let. And especially since she's trying to gain her own power and trying to assert her own way of life and the way, this is the way for her, not Mandalorian, but within the Expanse. She's trying to show people how she thinks an honorable living is. Definitely not the way Marcos is doing things. And I think that, to your point, Ashay, I think that she's going to take that upon her, and that's going to be kind of a light of fire under her ass. I think she's going to be pissed. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I think she says there that Marco is not her fight. That's what she says. But really, like you said, I think she will realize that this is her fight. This is part of her fight. Yeah.
Oh, we got a cat sighting. I think that I wonder what the next episode title is going to be, because I think that's going to be a thread that's going to tie through.
Oh, so you're not reading episode titles. I know the whole season's episod titles are out. I will not tell you, and you should not read them.
Well, okay. Well, I think that that's going to be a thread throughout the next episode, because Admiral Delgado, he and Avasarala were very close to getting those towers back, and perhaps they could have stopped that rock if it wasn't for politics and people thinking that Avasarala was just trying a power grab. But now the fact that she's right is going to be a pretty big. Oh, the cat just doesn't want to give up. The cat has become a rock that has hit the stream.
I would tell you, I would pay money to see Nancy Gao's face as this is the rock when the first rock falls. One, it's an awful thing. I shouldn't even make light of it all, truly. But they told her so. They did, and I actually like Nancy Gao a lot. I think we weren't covering last season, but I think she made a really good point about everything. I think she was a really good political opponent. And I was glad to see a little bit more of her, but obviously...
She reminded me of a Bernie Sanders, kind of like of the people type of character, you know what I mean? Like she was trying to, as opposed to more of a classist, elitist Avasarala, who has always been someone who has kind of been, led a pretty good life. She's been someone who's maybe trying to understand the more base level people's problems. And I kind of like that. But now we're in a situation where that's been compromised, right? Someone who is maybe a little bit nicer has let something slide. And Avasarala, I think she's going to jump all over that and Oh my God, she's gonna. We haven't seen bitch mode Avasarala yet, man. She's Earth's like as one of my favorite quotes. What are you, Earth's queen? From Amos early on in episode 1. I think we're gonna see her kind of step up to the plate.
Yeah, for sure. Depending on what all goes on down there at the UN and how bad the cataclysm is, for sure. Because at the end of episode 3, when the rock falls, we see that the language is it's in South African is where that falls. Notably, so that's where the destruction will start. Yeah.
Well, that can affect all sorts of different. I mean, one small rock can affect the weather of the whole planet. Obviously, creating a giant plume and
as you know, of course, they really get into the science. They know what will happen. What would happen if that went on?
And we talked about the realism of the showrunner Aaron Shakar and how they want to do all the space physics stuff as real as they can. Like, hey, you get a hole in your shuttle. You're probably, I mean, you're gonna lose O2 and you're gonna die. You're gonna suffocate. They're definitely gonna go to the next level when as far as this crisis is going to be unfolding over the next few episodes. It's going to be really interesting too, because as we see, all of these people are kind of on all their, I don't want to say selfishly on their own journeys, but they're trying to accomplish things in their own sort of way. We see Alex, for example, out trying to reconnect with his family. We haven't talked about him, and Bobby's trying to kind of do her own thing on Mars, trying to figure out why all of these arms are going missing. I really actually love that plot line. I think that's going to get juicy, but it's going to be really interesting to see the reaction from all of the different characters, because they're all separated. If that brings them all together, this one uniting event, because this is a pretty big event, because all humans have come from Earth, no matter where they are now, right? So that's going to affect everybody emotionally and psychologically.
Since we're talking about our favorite plot lines, since you mentioned that right there, everyone in the chat, let us know what your favorite plot line has been in these first 3 episodes. I'll definitely say I agree with you. I really like this Mars stuff. It's setting up this conspiracy. It's a big mystery. I think it's interesting stuff. But Earth would be up there too for me, because it has that cataclysm about to hit and Amos, and so that's going to get real exciting. So those would be my top tier, I suppose, plot lines.
Amos is the only person on Earth right now, right?
Only person on the whole planet.
as far as our POV characters.
Yes, he is our only POV character.
Wow, and there wasn't any casualties. Amos was the only one there, Kyle. Way to phrase that. But yes, yeah.
But obviously, at the end of episode 3, you see Amos is not just leaving Earth. So he's going to be there.
Yeah. It's just going to be interesting, too, because he had plans to never come back, right? And then that's obviously going to change, because Amos is Amos, and he's a problem solver, or he tries to solve problems with brute force. But this one is going to be a little bit more interesting, because it's going to require helping a lot of people, because a lot of people are going to be affected by it, the whole planet.
Yeah. Where do you see Amos's arc going? What do you think he's going to do? This is a good time for that, I think.
I think they're really going to humanize Amos this season. I think he's going to go help people out on Earth. I think he's going to stay on Earth the whole season, maybe. I don't know. I think that's a possibility. I would also like him to get up there and go after Marcos Inaros himself. But I think that other people are higher up the food chain as far as who gets to land the first blow on him. I don't think he's necessarily going to be the main guy for that. So I think that he's going to work closely with Avasarala. I think him and Avasarala are going to get in contact. I think that will probably be the first person that he talks to. Maybe Eric, maybe even he and Eric reconnect. I don't know, but I think Avasarala and Amos are going to be a team. I don't know if that's really out there or not.
Yeah, everyone wants that. Everyone wants to see more of them. They're just 2 of the best characters with the best lines, their interaction. Obviously, that's one of the ones that they sent out as a teaser before the season, was that Amos Avasarala scene, because they knew fans love it. They're just great. But I do have to take a moment and tell you, Kyle, you can say names however you want, but it's Marco. There's no S.
Really?
Yeah, there's no S. I gotta get that out of the way early. But I did notice in the show that some characters said Inaros, some characters said Inaros,
Yeah.
which makes sense. They don't all know how to say this random belter's name.
Dominique said, I'm trying to go off of the way Dominique says it because she says it with such a nice British accent. She says, Marcos Inaros. It almost sounds like Marcos. So I was just like, I want to kind of say it like Dominique. You know what I mean? I want to say it eloquently. She says, Inaros, Marcos Inaros. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's because of the I and the O. It's like Marco. And then she goes, "Is in." I don't know. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
Excuses. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's okay. I don't mind it because it's a nice little sign of disrespect to him. You know, like you don't even respect him enough to say his name right.
Well, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that he launched an asteroid at Earth. So
yeah, exactly.
So
he's a despicable man. He's committing genocide like a whole. He's just an awful war criminal for sure.
I can just call him Little Marcos because I don't like him. But yeah, so that's going to be really interesting to see because all of the different characters are scattered. Let's go back a little bit too because we talked about the first episode, Exodus. We wanted to talk a little bit about the episode titles. I think that one's pretty straightforward. Exodus, the fracturing of the Rocinante. They spent 4 seasons really building up all of these relationships, and we kind of see people scattered. But episode 2 is a little bit different, Ashaya. Churn, and this is mostly tied to Amos'S backstory. And there's actually, isn't there a short story on this? It's called The Churn, correct?
Yeah. Yes, The Churn for sure. It's one of the the shortest of the short stories in the series, but very, very important. One of the ones I recommend most to people to read, even if you don't read all the books. I think reading The Churn is a good idea personally. That, and we obviously get actual flashbacks, which I was surprised about. I wasn't expecting to see just full-on flashbacks. It makes a lot of sense in retrospect because it's hard to communicate something like that from Amos's POV, but I just wasn't thinking that it would happen.
So that was a surprise for you then. That was a nice surprise.
Yeah, it was a surprise. It genuinely was a surprise to see like little Amos and to actually see what Lydia looked like and all that. Yeah.
I kind of got the vibe that was going to happen because when he's first in Baltimore, he sees the kid with all the blood on his face that got beat up. And I'm like, oh, I mean, like he said he was going to take care of some affairs. So I kind of had it in me. I was like, oh, okay. Like, is there some sort of mother figure or paternal figure that's around? Cause we were looking at the episode titles and I was like, oh, okay, maybe he meets his mother in episode 3 or something like that. But then I found out much more than that. And I was like, wow, that really makes sense. And it was really nice to see his flashbacks with Lydia because she was a guiding light for him and taught him a lot about life. Like he obviously had a very hard life and she, basically helped him get through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. The show is dealing with a really delicate subject there. And I think they do a good job they don't hammer you over the head with it or make you really live with how awful it is, but when you really think about it, it's truly awful.
And we're talking about sex trafficking, correct?
Yeah. It's just like, he's just straight up from when he was a little boy, like he's born into sex trafficking. Then he was, made to just be a violent brute to try to, just awful, awful stuff. And that can lead to something very, very grim, but they ride that line really well, I think.
We get to see, another Wire character, Frankie Faison, which is really cool. I actually, those were some of my favorite scenes of the first 3 episodes. Those particular interactions got the show. We see Amos obviously go in there. He's forceful even when he's holding the door when he first goes there, Shea, and then they have their conversation. He offers him tea. And then he's even forceful. He's like, what are you going to do? Beat me up? And then he sees how hurt this person is by the passing of Lydia. And it's like, no, tea sounds good. And then we see that flip switch because we find out that Lydia really mattered to this person and that matters to Amos. And then that goes from there.
Yeah, I think that's also like one of the most comforting that Amos has ever been. He's been a little bit like that with children. And I think with Prax is one of the only other people we've seen him kind of like, oh, you're sad about something. Let me try to help. But it isn't normal for him.
His daughter was in a similar situation to him, not as far as the whole sex trafficking stuff goes, but being captive of someone and not having like you don't have your own sovereignty. Someone is controlling like your every move, and he is experienced that, and that's why he was so adamant. He's like, listen, I'm going to do the deed. You don't need to do this. I'm going to take care of this because you don't need to carry that sin with you. I'm okay with this, and that's kind of really interesting. Kind of the growth we're seeing with Amos. He's probably my favorite character. Because of this reason, we are seeing someone who we think is one thing, but we see there is so much more. And I think that we're going to see a lot of that this season. We've only seen the first 3 episodes, but I'm expecting that we're going to see even more growth from him throughout the next 7 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the second episode goes, Ashaya, what were some of the other moments that stood out to you? We talked a little bit, of course, about the conversation with Eric a little bit earlier. All the backstory stuff with Lydia. Did you like any of the other stuff in the episode? What really stood out to you?
Yeah, I suppose I really have to just speak to all the Baltimore stuff. It was pretty high up there for me. I'll take note of how complicated they cited some of the scenes as being for filming. For example, they in the after show brought up that Baltimore shot, how it was very complicated, required a helicopter and a crane 200 feet off the ground. So that's pretty cool.
Shot
and even
in Toronto, in Canada.
Yeah. So it's like learning from the after show a little bit about how complicated some of it was. That was neat. I think one of the things from the after show, this is a good point to bring it up in episode 2 that I hadn't thought about, but is a really good point, which is that Breck Eisner, what the director, has said that Belters are often seen as victims or fighting oppression. But now with Drummer's family, we're seeing them as a family. And so I did really like that.
And he pointed out, he was the one that also pointed out that her status, she wants to cement her status as not that of a space pirate, but as someone that's leading a coalition, this new faction. And we saw all of these different factions, but she feels that she's competent enough and she's feeling that she's asserting herself. So I think that that's really cool. Breck Eisner had a really cool story talking about how he went and see Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they are talking about that in the Aftermath show. He also...
Yeah, go watch it and listen to it. It's a really good story.
He met Steven Spielberg when he was 12 and said Raiders of the Lost Ark was meh, which is like a big deal. One of the other awesome things that he highlights too was the growth of Holden and his character, and how he became more confident. He said that was another sticking point for the episode as well, and something that I guess Steven got to work with some stuff that wasn't source material, Shea.
Well, it said that this was the first time Steven had done something with source material.
Sorry. Yeah, the other way around.
Yeah, like at all. Like The Expanse was just interesting. If I were an actor, I feel like I would love it. They all rave about having such an outline to really get into the characters' heads. Wes has brought that up, and Steven has, and so that's cool for sure.
Yeah, and.
I just have to say, I really do like Steven. We interviewed him, obviously, and before we interviewed him, I hadn't, watched interviews with him, but he's really thoughtful guy. I highly recommend watching
he's a
his
genius.
stuff.
Like he's really intelligent. Like he's just like everything that he said in the interview was. He took like 3 seconds and then he gave like the most intelligent answer I ever heard in an interview. And I was like, whoa. I asked him about like what the idea of being a protagonist means, and he kind of just blew me away. I remember that. I was like, I'm learning something today. So yeah, that was really cool to kind of get his insight. And it's one thing I also really loved about one of my favorite shots, I think this is in my top 3 favorite shots in the first 3 episodes, is when he finishes his coffee, he sees Naomi taking off in the ship and he spins the coffee cup. And he's just like so sad. I'm like, oh my God. I was like literally tearing up after that. I'm like, sad Holden, man. He doesn't have any more coffee and he's sad that Naomi's leaving. What do you think about that scene? Just that little bit of extra, him realizing that he's like, damn, this could go badly.
Made me think of in season 3 when we got that Belter version of I'm All Alone. You know, that's what should have been playing when Holden sat there. It's just, I'm all alone. In particular, I think everyone cites this scene, but just that little bit of him scrolling his messages. No new messages. No new messages. Oh, Monica messaged me. I guess I'll go with Monica.
She's so damn annoying. She's the only person that's messaging me. I thought that was really funny too.
Yeah.
But Naomi was texting him a message. If anything goes wrong, we don't see what else she texted after that, whether she sent it or not.
She got, it doesn't even look like she got her deck there.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't look like Holden got that. So it's like unspoken. It's kind of lending us to think that they may never end up seeing each other again. Like she was gonna say, "Hey, like I love you. If something goes wrong, I want you to know I love you." It was gonna be like something along those lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of better that he didn't get that message, perhaps.
Yeah. Because it would have been like, oh shit, like little Marco sends a message to him. I got Naomi. You know what I mean? He would have been like, oh god, this is even worse. He would feel even more anxious. You know.
What do you think?
And Holden can be a pretty anxious person.
So what do you think is going to happen there with Naomi being brought to Marco and all that?
He's gonna give her a couple of options. He's gonna say, you can choose this or this, right? And she's going to be in a really interesting position because she really wants to free Philip, but at the same time, she's in a compromised position where she doesn't have any leverage. So what is she going to do? And my sense is that she's going to stick around because she wants to make sure he's safe. So she's willing to ride it out with people that she's going to find out that an asteroid hit Earth, right, at some point. Like they're going to be talking about it on the ship, and that's going to make her even more concerned. And I think that's actually going to strengthen her to not leave because she's like, well, things are getting worse and worse. Like, what are they going to do? Launch more rocks at Earth? I can't let my son be complicit in genocide. So I think that that's where she's at with it. She's like not liking where she's at, but she doesn't really have a choice, honestly.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
What are your thoughts on it, Ashaya?
I can't. That's the thing about being the book reader is I can't wax on too much, but I like hearing what you think about it for sure. And like I said, I will point out again that they changed things so that Philip chose to bring her, so there are some things that will play out differently than I'm guessing they would.
And that surprised me, the way he kind of took her out. I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen. I kind of expected less friction, you know what I mean? I expected less. I mean, I was like, okay, like just like I expected that big dude. What's his name? I really liked his character.
Sin.
I love that character. I really like the connection, but you can tell he has a heart. So he may see like he was interestingly enough, even looking at Philip, like he wanted to go back and save their other friend, and he was like, oh shit, like he was pretty taken back by some of the decisiveness, I think, that like of Philip's decisions. He's like, well, damn, he's really like his father, you know, like that's kind of the kind of vibe that I felt Sin was feeling.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Philip, because I felt he had a very strong performance. That was I wouldn't say surprise, but we knew that we were going to find out more about him this season, and possibly that Naomi would go and find him. But he had an excellent performance. He was like kind of like my dark horse MVP of the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, he was very good. As everyone else says, again, what a perfect casting job. Just perfect fusion of the two of them, of Keon Alexander and Dominique Tipper. Very good there. He's a big kid, by the way. I don't know how old I think he is. In the books, Philip is 15. It looks like he's a few years older than that here.
Age up to like 18, 19 or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, perhaps. But he could still be meant to be younger and just be real tall. But not very important. But I am curious because I think that does have somewhat of an impact in you being part of genocide. Like a 15-year-old is somewhat more excusable to me, but it's really a hard thing to come back from, I think, redemption-wise.
I was even shocked when they shot the research people on the Venus ship. I was like, okay, this is not going to go as I expected it to go. Like he's really under the thumb of Marco. Like he is like, and I mean that's his father. Obviously, his father being his father can tell him what to do. So there's that kind of aspect to it. And I find that really interesting. And, just how strongly he feels about the ideas his father is teaching him. I mean, we talked about how Balthers feel oppression. He obviously feels some of that, but I think it's going to be really, I think this is the character that we're going to see a lot of character development over the next 7 episodes, because we don't know him that much. He hasn't been in the past 4 seasons. So we're going to learn a lot more about Philip over the next few episodes. And I think we're going to be surprised by some of the things that we're going to see.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see his dynamic with Marco, because we really haven't seen anything of that thus far.
Big thank you to Maura Lee for that donation. Hype and love to you both. We appreciate that, Maura, another fan of The Expanse.
Yeah, it's nice to see Maura.
Yeah, Maura, getting in the Christmas spirit. And we do love Maura. So it's going to be like you know so much about Philip. So, but that's one thing that you noted in our doc here is that you felt like he had a really strong performance.
Yeah, I definitely do. I will say he's a POV that we get in the book series, and he's one of those POVs that it's so painful to read because you're like, dude, you're wrong, and he hates Holden, and it's just one of those. It's kind of like Clarissa Mao in book 3 and season 3, how she was just so hateful and dead set on killing Holden. It can be really difficult to deal with a bit.
Oh man. So that's really interesting. It's like getting a POV character in A Song of Ice and Fire that you don't necessarily like a Victarion who's a complete idiot. You know what I mean? Then you're having to somehow reason with his decision making, and it's like, okay.
I think The Expanse does a really good job of that, because each book we do really get a POV of someone that's on the other side, often considered the wrong side, and they learn some, and maybe they're right somewhat and all that, but pretty much most of the books, they often have a POV that is hard for me to read the first time until I know what happens to them. Yeah, and that they don't succeed.
I've changed my mind now. I'm 100% going to get the book tomorrow or Sunday, whenever I can get my car out there on those icy roads. And I'm gonna read it next week. I'll probably read it. I heard this one is a hard one to put down. I heard this one is one of the favorites among the fans. So that's really
it really is. Wes and Naren said that it was their favorite, notably. So my favorite is book 8, which is another good selling point to all of you on reading the book. Every book
Persepolis Rising or Persepolis?
No, Tiamat's Wrath.
Oh, Tiamat's Wrath.
It's the penultimate one, whereas Persepolis Rising was before that. We're on Nemesis Games, and then we have Babylon's Ashes.
Leviathan Wakes, and then the last one is going to be called Leviathan Falls, right?
Yes, exactly. Ooh.
And Leviathan can often represent a mythical creature, which can be fairly interesting. Perhaps we will see some crazy alien action. I haven't read ahead, though, so I know you guys have, but I have heard it gets pretty friggin' goddamn interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the Mars plotline, because we are getting 5 and 6 seasons. I know this plotline is going to be something interesting that we're going to be having to look at, because they're not saying season 6 is for sure the last season of Shea. They're saying it's a pause.
Let's take a moment for that. I think they have said a lot of stuff. If I compiled it, it would be a long list of hints that they've said about it's the end of the TV season on Amazon, and it's a pause, and thinking emoji and all that. Like, there's something going on.
They know more than we do. Dominique Tipper has made comments. The writer's room. A lot of people, like, they know they can't say anything, but we may be in for there may be some good news out there eventually. And without spoiling too much, there is a time shift in the books. I believe it's between book 6 and book 7. There's a 30-year time jump. We won't spoil too much. I do know about that. And that is something that perhaps, let's say they do pause on season 6, the show could come back later in a few years or something like that, or they could do movies. But there is another plot line that stems from this Mars plot line that becomes much bigger, I heard. And I found this Mars plot line to be really interesting because they're one of these other factions that they already got a lot of great tech, Ashea, right? They're kind of ahead of the curve. And the Sauveterre character, am I saying his name correctly?
That's how I would say it.
Sauveterre?
I don't claim to be some like French expert, but I would say Sauveterre.
And
I don't know.
I actually found the whole honeypot plot line
Yeah.
with Cass. I thought he was going to be a lot smarter with what happened. Like I thought like, oh, he was like kind of like they were both investigating each other and he wasn't going to be duped. But it kind of plays in with the theme of him being a little bit lonely. You know what I mean? He's not being received as he wants to with Bobby. He's not getting the reception he wants from his ex-wife, but he is chatting with his kids, so he's kind of in a tough spot. And I think that they saw that he could be manipulated, and she saw that, and she's incredibly intelligent. And I was like, damn, these Martians, this Martian plot, there's something bigger than we think, because they are really trying to make sure Bobby and Cass don't get on that. And I think it's much more than arms dealing. So I don't know. I think there's something bubbling on the surface there that kind of scares me, that perhaps there could be this really bad rogue Martian faction that's worse than Marco Inaros, in a sense.
Yeah, you start to see a lot of that with the War College and the kind of the lecture that Sauveterre is given there, and I think that's worth listening to multiple times if you're wondering where that plot line might go. I would also like to point out that in the intro sequence, they have added a lot of little Easter eggs, little details that is well worth looking real close at it. Little things like the Razorback on Mars. You can see that. So there's some things that hint at where it might go in the intro. And I will say, I honestly thought that Alex might get killed.
Oh, wow.
Because of the cast stuff. We're dancing around it, but he's not going to be in season 6. I thought maybe he just got killed there. It would be shocking. Yeah. He wasn't, but I
actually
really
don't think he's going to survive the season. I think that that's a strong possibility. Of course, there's allegations out there. We're not going to talk too much about that, but that obviously is a thing of concern.
And to be clear to anyone who's listening who really doesn't want to see Alex stuff, we're not going to focus on any Alex part of the plot line. We're going to kind of go quickly at it, because some people, even when they're watching the show, they're kind of trying to tune that out.
But the Bobby stuff. She's a celebrated character. There's something there. There's something that's going to be explored. Even going back to last season, right? This is just building up into something bigger. And I think that with the crisis that we saw on Earth, something even more interesting, maybe, Martians who have known stealth tech might be involved in this space rock stuff, even though Marco is the one that threw the rock. So that's going to be something that's really interesting that I think is going to unfold. But I definitely did not want to mention it, because I think this Sauveterre character, the way, like you said at his speech, there was definitely some ego in that, I think, that people have to watch.
So Bobby's obviously been on this conspiracy since last season and really getting into it. And she's just become so disillusioned with it all. And that's like an interesting arc that her character has had. And it's interesting because she is disillusioned, but it's not actually that different from the beginning of her character in some ways, because she's still passionate, that she still has strong convictions. And she just feels really betrayed. I suppose is what I would think about her.
She feels less strong about Mars going where she thought it was going to go, because there is corruption within the system. Yeah.
And I like to point out, John Hagee said Mars looked like a failing mall. That is accurate. Very accurate. I loved seeing more of Mars, though, just in general. Since season 1, I would constantly say in season 1, when are we going to see Mars? And then I started reading the books, when are we going to see more Mars?
It's really interesting. Andrew Gilbert says Mars is going to become the East India Trading Company of space. That's kind of an interesting comparison. They want to be at the top of the monopoly, so to speak, and obviously they want to be seen independent from Earth, being independent from Earth, and they want to be doing their own thing. So that's kind of some of the reasoning, perhaps, behind some of their decisions. And now Earth is in a weakened state, so Mars can make a power play, perhaps, now that some of this stuff is going down. So I think that could be another interesting thing that we can think that might be unexpected. Well, not unexpected, but that we could see.
Oh, let's see. We're talking about Mars plot, and that kind of just makes me think of Delgado and Avasarala when they talk about the joke, about a
Ooh.
Belter, an Earther, and a Martian. We don't get the end of that, but I've seen a lot of people on Reddit and stuff kind of speculate on what the end of it could be. I think maybe we will see the end, but maybe it's possible we did see the end because we see a scientist come in and he just gets bourbon. He doesn't even care about the other people because they're just so self-absorbed, potentially. I don't think that's where it's going to go. My thought immediately was that the Earther, takes both, basically, that he has all the enemies, was kind of the message I took from it. What about you? Do you think we'll get the end of that joke?
It's really interesting. I saw a lot of people talk about that too. Some people said, I saw a lot of people say they don't think we're going to get the answer, but I think we will, because, I mean, look at the consequences of what happened, right? That conversation, I mean, they were obviously trying to figure out as much information from that conversation, and then that expert was basically telling them, like, well, they're all the same on one side. Something's off here. So, and as we know, Delgado came into Avasarala and he's like, I'm not taking orders from you anymore. Like, he's basically told her to fuck off because the other people thought Avasarala was making a power play. So this joke, what would happen if these three people walked into a bar? Well, I don't necessarily know if they would all agree. That's for sure. They're not all having the same thing to drink because they have different ideologies. And that's kind of where we're going with it, I think. So I think there could be a bar fight at the end of the season. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. That's
I really
good.
like that Delgado character. I think he's going to feel super guilty. I mean, I think him and Drummer are going to be the people that feel perhaps the most terrible about it because, maybe they felt like they could prevent it in some sort of way.
Yeah, and I mean, Drummer, she genuinely, she could have prevented it technically. Like, she didn't think, how could she have ever thought Marco would do that? But yeah, if she'd killed Marco, it wouldn't have happened. But Delgado, he was trying. Like, he tried. I hope that he can recognize that he could never have convinced anyone, and that it was too late by the point that he gave up to have convinced anyone. But yeah, you're right that I know, I think of Vasarala, she'll be broken up, I mean, in general, but how can you not blame yourself for not trying even harder when that many people die and you knew what was coming?
Even though she craves power, Earth has always been her number one priority, and that's never been something that's changed for her. But I think that it's super interesting. Like, Avasarala, even though I love Shore, by the way. I always talk to her on Twitter and Instagram. She's just a lovely, lovely person. I got to talk to her at Dragon Con too. She just is so goddamn good at her role. She is Avasarala, in my opinion. But I think it's kind of hard with Avasarala too, because she is a manipulative person. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, from Delgado's perspective, I kind of don't blame him either. You know what I mean? Because of all the shit that Avasarala's pulled. So it's kind of everybody's in these difficult situations where they have to make really difficult decisions. You make one small mistake with this big, space war that's going on, and something really, really bad can happen. And now we're seeing the consequence of that at the end of episode 3. And like I said, there's more. What did they throw 9 rocks, Ashaya? The one rock broke into several rocks.
Yeah, we saw it was like rock number 9. Yeah, exactly. And if you go back, you can see, if you go back to season 4, when they send them, you can see where the trajectories are taking them. So,
and they did insinuate that some probably broke up during the sun because they passed by the sun, and that's usually what happens because of space physics. But
so for sure, 9 rocks are not hitting it. 8 rocks aren't hitting it, but 1 is enough to be awful. So
yeah, I just have a gut feeling it's going to be more than 1. I don't know. I have a bad feeling. And yeah, I mean, that one was obviously pretty bad. Tsunamis was mentioned in the chat earlier from John Hagee. Something.
Yeah, he mentioned that we saw it last year too.
Oh man, yeah. So Earth is in a difficult position, and like I said, I really think that they're going to show like the kind of the Game of Thrones aspects that I really loved about the show. The constant warring of different factions. We're going to see Earth is in a weakened state. They just got hit by an asteroid. So, hey, like look at Tycho and Ceres, they're trying to get their shit together. Fred Johnson wants the Belters to independently police themselves over there. People all have their own ideas of what they think things should be like. I think that there's going to be some problems there potentially for Earth, even beyond the asteroid hitting. I think it's going to be logistically bad for them. So that's that was a big shocker. I was surprised that they did it episode 3 of Shea, because they insinuated at the end of last season that it was a possibility. I was like, well, maybe they can do it in the premiere. That might be something crazy if they do it in episode 1, but I'm like, they'll probably save it for episode 8 or 9. So that's kind of something that was surprising for me, that actually I was like, whoa, like this is something that would happen in like an episode 9 or 10 or something, you know?
Yeah, for me, I thought it was going to happen in episode 4 because I looked at the episode titles. So I thought it would. So like to have the last shot be that, I was like, whoa, this poor guy, like just trying to catch some fish, and he just gets his face all sunburned and blistered, and then whoop, he's gone.
I'm going to read the episode titles after now. I can't not.
Oh, you are? You can't not do it. Without having read the book, a lot of it won't mean much to you, but reading the book, you're like, oh, I see what that is, for sure. And we're talking about like the episode titles right there. Obviously, the title Mother referred to Naomi, and we were talking about other people it could refer to. I think it refers a lot to Mother Earth as well.
Or the mother of all bombs, the Moab. The nuclear bomb.
Yeah, that's true.
This is much worse than a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just thought that. My mind is perverted for thinking mother of all bombs. My God. We truly live in the darkest timeline, people, for me to think mother, and I think mother of all bombs. Also, I think that we should point out episode 3, directed by Thomas Jane. He did a really good job, Shea.
Yeah, and I read interviews where the actors, I mean, it's not surprise. Of course, the cast isn't gonna be like, yeah, he was terrible. But they did point out that, you know, an actor's director is a good type of director to get in there, because he's experienced what it's like to be the actor. And so you can have a lot of really good insights. And that in general, having worked on the show for so long and been part of it, that he just had some good ideas. In the interviews, he talked about how he wants to get more into this side of things. So he's really been enjoying like shadowing them and learning it, and them giving him the opportunity to direct.
One thing he did mention in the after show that was really interesting, he said when he was 12 years old, I can't remember, it was 10 or 12 years old, him and his family went to go see the movie Alien. Yeah. And that was what really propelled him forward to want to become a director or actor. And then we also heard from Ty that was his biggest influence for The Expanse. And then we heard Wes chime in, and he's like, Alien and Aliens are my favorite favorite space movies. So it was funny to kind of all, you know, Thomas kind of take the lead on it, and then everybody starts to talk about the movie Alien. And then they brought the theme isolation, and that was, you know, obviously, you know, the theme of family within the first 3 episodes, the family being fractured, and the theme of isolation is obviously something that comes up in the movie Alien and Aliens. So I found that really interesting, the fact that he brought that up, and that was kind of some of his influence, and they kind of really want to, you know, bring some of those influences from The Expanse. And I just found that super fascinating that was the primary kind of influence that really Ty and Daniel had for The Expanse. Mm-hmm. Well, specifically Ty, because Daniel wasn't there, but that was Ty.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So that was super cool. And if you do want to go check that out, like we said, Amazon Prime Video, they have these after shows. They're all half an hour. And then there's a couple of 5-minute ones to share on the X-ray ones, like you say. But you can go check them out. And yeah, they're super fun to watch, because you get to see another side of these actors and actresses, and they're all so passionate about this show. You like, if you love The Expanse, you'll love these people even more once you go see how much they gush about it and how much effort and work they put into their craft. It's really amazing.
A lot of insight just into the filmmaking process as well. I really liked, I think, in episode 1 where they talked a lot about what a showrunner was. You know, just went over that role, because sometimes people don't quite understand it. So that stuff is really interesting as well. We got a comment here from John Hagee, who said, speaking of mothers, I wonder if Avasarala's daughter and grandkids are on Luna or Earth next week. And we saw her say goodbye to them. So that's not a good sign for them still being there. But I mean, she has, a number of family. So we'll see who's there. Arjun is on Earth. We know that. And it seems like they were showing that her family went back to Earth to me. I don't know if that's how you interpret it, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, that's concerning considering what happened, right? So Avasarala is going to be even more concerned, right? I don't know if they live you said South Africa is where you think the rock hit, but
yeah.
I mean, it's going to impact the whole planet. So Avasarala is going to be pissed.
Yes.
Because her family's there.
And I don't think we haven't mentioned this the whole time, but obviously in season 1, we got that whole scene with her lying on the roof talking to her grandson about, rocks falling. And here we are. They set the stage for that a long time ago. Let me tell you, watching the show, as soon as she says that, we're like, oh.
You know what I also found to be a nice bit of foreshadowing? When Fred Johnson mocks Holden about the end of the world. And then an asteroid hits Earth a couple of episodes later, and Holden's like, "Listen, I'm got a right to be concerned." And then he, shows what's her name? Your favorite character, the scientist.
Elvie Okoye.
And he shows Elvie's recording of what happens. Like she's talking about how all of the animals they went through, that anything that's basically matter, like human, animal, mammal, is dead, that passes through this sort of thing. And it's interesting that they're talking about that, but when I heard about it, I was like, space rock, that's immediately what popped into my head, because I was like, well, that was the first thing they showed, right? I was like, okay, this is really interesting. Is that what he's saying? And I found that to be, I felt like that was foreshadowing, even though it's Fred Johnson talking to Holden. And we know that Holden is kind of like this safekeeper of humanity, whether it's Earth, Mars, and he cares about all the human race through the whole galaxy. So I felt that was a really powerful moment. And now Holden's gonna be like, look, this is bad. He's gonna be definitely concerned about what happened. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that was another bit of foreshadowing, but that was something interesting that I caught.
I hope Holden's family is okay there too. They live on Earth. There. Speaking of, we were talking about Drummer and her family, and that is obviously another example of a polyamorous family. Theirs is different because they're doing it. They get tax credits. They get so they have incentive to do it, like extra incentive. So I've always wanted to see a lot more about how their relationship works. Because he has 8 parents, but which is one of the reasons why in the books, in particular, I really liked seeing how the dynamic was in this polypod. And just because it kind of makes me think about what Holden's family life might have been like, I suppose. Anyways, hope they're okay.
It's going to be really interesting to see all the communication that happens from all of this, like where it is, because Holden's been holding out at Tycho. That's kind of been this nice little comfort spot for him since going to Ilis, right? And now this crisis happens, but this crisis, I feel like even though all of our characters are isolated, it's gonna, they're all still connected, right? Like we know the Mars thing is kind of a little bit connected, because we saw the Mars stuff was connected to those 2 people that Amos beat up, right? Did you see that on the screen, Ashaya? So that's connected to Amos, and then Amos is going to be connected to Avasarala, and all of them are going to be connected through, we're going to find all of this web that connects everything and all of our characters, even though they're in different locations. And I think by the time we get to episode 7, we're going to be like, oh, that's really brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we see that here with them finally sharing information, because Drummer gives Fred information and Fred gives it to Avasarala. Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's really interesting, because that's one of the things I noticed. I was like, I'm like, Amos, those 2 guys, or the 2 guys he threatened, and then they showed up on, the thing that they were showing. And then we obviously found those 2 people dead, and then all of these other things are happening, and then everything's connected. Then Monica is finding out more about what's happening. So I feel like everything is connected. Like there's no real coincidences of what's happening.
I didn't mention it when we talked about the shower scene. I love so much the 2 dudes that have to run out naked from the shower during the middle of that fight, all wet and nude. It made me laugh.
Man, Amos is brutal though. I love that was my favorite speech of his when he's talking about the gas and how dangerous things are. That was I put that in my favorite quotes. Like I said, you have a couple of other favorite quotes there. Did we go over pretty much everything?
We didn't go over. We did go over pretty much. We're pretty close to the end here.
Yeah.
I would say my favorite quote from the first 3 episodes was a Belter saying. It was, "The more you share, the more the more your bowl will be plentiful," which is just a lovely message. I really like that.
And you already mentioned Eric saying, "I love you and miss you."
Yeah. Yep.
The one I didn't say that I thought was really funny, Fred Johnson and Holden and He's like, "Claiming to have brain damage isn't the best way to sell me on this, son." And he's trying to talk about like how he's explaining to him like, "Oh, the alien, like when I'm passing through the gates, they physically changed my brain." And Fred Johnson's like, "Dude, you sound crazy to me." And I found that but then he shows him proof. He's like, look at all this like research of stuff that's happening. So I thought that was super hilarious. And it was like such a like great thing for Chad Coleman. It just reminded me of like the wisdom of Cuddy Weiss and The Wire. It was just like great for his character. It felt like natural for Fred Johnson. I don't know. I just loved it.
Yeah. I also liked Holden's description of how that could work with, like if you fold a piece of paper over and over, how you'll still have the lines. I thought creases. That was, the little creases. I did like that.
And then I said my favorite quote. So you have to ask yourself how much damage you think I can do in 2 minutes. That was my overall favorite quote because Amos is my favorite character overall. And he was just scaring the shit out of those people with how seriously, he wanted to deal with that situation. He wasn't going to let those people be taken advantage of. So overall, those first 3 episodes of Shea, like I felt, it's really, we talked about a little bit about this privately. It's really rare for a TV show to get better with seasons. Like I can count on like, 2 hands, Breaking Bad, I'm not as far as in Better Call Saul as you guys, but
true for Better Call Saul. Yeah. It is true for that.
But for something like this, you know what I mean? Like for something that we only thought we were only going to get a couple seasons of, and sci-fi is something that's can usually be, I don't want to use the word corny, but it's like this kind of drama to pull off in a sci-fi is just really impressive. To make it feel grounded and connected and something that we can actually empathize with, even though there's this huge grand space opera is really great. And it's just a great time for television. Mandalorian, The Expanse, and 2020 has been a tough year. It's like an early Christmas present, I feel like, getting those first 3 episodes and having it back. I'm just really happy to have The Expanse back.
Yeah, it'll be nice. We get some episodes right before Christmas too. I'm just. By the way, can I also say that if you're watching, please, I honestly say you should rate the show on Amazon or on whatever, because fans suck and they're doing the same thing they did with The Boys, where they're just getting 1-star ratings because they're doing it weekly. It's so terrible. It pisses me off so much. It's like, dudes, don't you want the show on the air? It's dumb. I spent ages yesterday. I actually I replied to a bunch of people's reviews on Amazon. Just like, what are you like? Do you not like the show? Shut up. So give them a little love and rate the show 5 stars, the season 5 on Amazon, since you're watching.
I'm not going to spoil The Mandalorian, but I kind of did the same thing on Twitter today. People were complaining about something that happened, and I'm like, this may be the best Star Wars moment in the past 20, 30 years, and you're complaining about it. I just say, some people have to be miserable when they don't get what they want. Like I think we're incredibly fortunate to even get 6 seasons of The Expanse.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get something like this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still nervous about The Witcher. I hope it gets 7 seasons, but like, look at what happened with the COVID. So, anything can happen. And I just, it's the end of the Amazon series after season 6, but season 5, holy crap. And it's different too. Like, obviously we had the proto-molecule stuff, and last season was a little bit different too, Ashaya. We were focused kind of on the one colony on Illis, but this one is back again to all of the different places. And for them to make it feel as connected as they did with one colony in Illis in season 5 with everybody else in different places is really impressive for me. So I give a high score to all of these 3 episodes. I would rate it like a 9 out of 10 for me. I don't really have much to say other than I don't have much qualms with any of the episodes. I felt they were all really nicely done and nicely paced. Like the pacing was good, even though we had to check out a bunch of different POVs.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I don't think I have any issues with it. I think I will mention they brought a character from the books far later, Bull, that guy that we see. So that's kind of interesting to me. It keeps me guessing what'll happen with him. So I don't like that character. So I will say that in terms of qualms about the show, I don't like listening to him speak. He's calling Belter skinnies and all that. No, it's not an actual complaint about the show, but I'm not looking forward to more scenes with him.
It's interesting because they did introduce a bunch of new characters, and we're in season 5, and usually you become pretty comfortable with the characters you see in a show. Like you become pretty attached to what you're seeing. So for them to introduce a bunch of new characters and for people to take on and be like, these characters are interesting, or they're piquing my interest, or they're, someone that's going to make a big impact on the story, is usually pretty difficult at this point in the story. Cause like not too many TV shows get past like 5, 6, 7 seasons. You know what I mean? And now we're kind of in the end game of the Expanse. You know what I mean? And I really feel like even that one Belter character that was with Naomi Nagata, I really liked her. The other Belter,
Sakai.
Yeah.
Notably, this is a good chance for me to say both Sakai and Karal are examples of them just casting them as women. They were men in the books, but it doesn't matter. They just went with who looked good, I'm sure, who they liked, switched it to female.
Yeah, and they just went with whoever did the best job in the interview process and in the casting process.
Yeah, I like to think they did do, exactly, just gender neutral casting.
I like when they do that. And they don't necessarily have to pick gender, race, the just like the inclusivity that we talked about. Expanse has been pretty good about that. We talked about Eric's character, picking someone that's disabled, and he did a great job. Like those scenes were electric. Like those are some of my favorite scenes. So I really love that, and the fact that they're doing that. But of course, we know that the Expanse people, they're incredibly detailed. They care a lot about what they're putting on screen, and they work incredibly hard at what they do. So they said this, and that's one of the funny things too. You guys, go check out these after shows. Ty was talking about the amount of effort they put in this show. You guys will really appreciate some of the smaller insights, something that you might not necessarily get to think about or see necessarily if you hadn't watched these. And it's a really great. I can't recommend them enough. And they're going to be doing them every week, Ashaya, right? They're going to be doing after every episode, I believe.
Yeah. I don't know what day, if they release them the next day. Obviously, we get the episodes. I believe they'll be doing it all season. What they did with The Boys, which is where we get it kind of the day before at 7 p.m. because they release it at midnight GMT, which is like 7 p.m. Eastern. I say 7 because that's my time. But where we don't have to stay up till like 3 in the morning to watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't know when they release the after show because of that. But just worth mentioning, just FYI, that they don't release it that late, so you conceivably can watch it in the evening.
So and for everybody that's joined us, we like this format, but let us know if this is kind of the way you would like to digest things. This is really fun. Me and Ashaya could talk about it any kind of which way, but of course we want to know what you enjoy. Let us know what your MVP of the episode was, your favorite quote, your favorite moment. There was a lot to kind of take in for the first 3 episodes. I'm sure we got to most of what people wanted to talk about. Oh, I'm sure we missed a couple of things. We could stay here for 4 hours and go over everything. But it'll be a little bit easier going forward because we just have one episode at a time, and I think that we could have a more concise, nice, grounded discussion when we have just one episode. But I am personally super excited that they're doing it weekly. I'm excited to see how it works out for the show, Ashaya, and hopefully it does it wonders. That's what I'm hoping.
See, what I need you to do, if you're going to start reading the book, one, that's going to change the dynamic here, and we'll have to warn people, which that's fine. But I want you to write down or something where you think the season is going to go before you find out. Because I would like to know that, which is why I've been kind of trying to ask you here some of those questions I don't want to lead you on, lead you down a certain path by my question.
You know what I'll do is I'll put it in a document, and I'll put my predictions on where I think certain things are going to go. And then I'm going read the books, and then we can see how wrong I am.
So yeah, that's perfect.
But really, really appreciate everyone joining us here tonight. It's been really fun reuniting with Ashaya. Of course, she's in Atlanta, I'm in Canada, and it's just been really fun to talk about this. We haven't talked about we talk about the Expanse privately because we're friends, but just talking about it like this, and like I said, I think I'll put in the comment section, I'll put the link to the Wes and Steven interview we did at Dragon Con, so you guys can go check it out, because they had it'll be cool to kind of see the energy they had for season 5. And yeah, we're really excited to do this. We want to continue to talk about this. Maybe we can get a special guest or two. I know some cool people out there. Maybe we can get like an Eric or something by the end of the season. We've counted our lucky stars and been pretty lucky so far, Ashaya. Maybe we can knock on wood and get lucky again and have a special guest on at some point for someone from the show or something like that. Because
I mean, it's very possible. They're just really engaged with everyone. Like I said before, get in there and live tweet. Use the hashtag The Expanse and The Expanse 504, 505, etc. What episode it is. We're trying to get things trending. And they'll interact with you. You'll get quote tweeted and have a nice comment from Monica, or it's really cool. I really like being in this fandom. I love the series, but the fandom itself is really good.
By the way, I did link Ashaya's Twitter and History of Westeros YouTube into the description of the video. So Ashaya is great at the live tweeting stuff. I'm kind of learning how to do it. I'm going to try to do it for the next episode, because it's going to be a little bit easier with one episode. Yeah. So if you could follow both of us on Twitter, we're going to be live tweeting after the episodes, and they have a schedule out for it. The Expanse Writers, at The Expanse Writers on Twitter, if you want to follow them. And all the Shorey, who plays Avasarala, I chatted with her all the time on Twitter. She chats with a lot of people that she doesn't even know, first time interaction. She chats with people on Twitter. A lot of the actors and the directors interact with the fans. And I would say, as far as interaction goes, and we know a lot of different fandoms to share, this is one of the most interactive as far as loving their fans and wanting to show them support and stuff like that. So if you're really into The Expanse, I highly suggest you do what Ashaya says, follow them on Twitter, get into these after shows, because they're really, really in love with The Expanse.
Oh yeah, I can say right here my little exciting thing, which is that they chose me. They had a little contest for reply with a GIF of how excited you are for The Expanse season 5, and I replied, and they messaged me yesterday that they're sending me a Martian beanie. Very exciting.
That's awesome, Michelle. I also entered that and lost, but I got a couple of other beanies. So I'd rather you win, because you know what I mean?
Can buy it. Yeah. They have the new Amazon merch. They have a Expanse mystery box. It's a shirt. You get a different shirt every month.
So a loot crate kind of deal, and you get something
exactly. New? Yeah, you don't know what shirt you're getting. You just choose your size. It was very intriguing to me, honestly, to spend $18, but I don't know.
One cool interaction that I did also have, Ashaya. There was this big Twitter. I can't remember the name of this person on Twitter, but they have 500K followers, and they're name the best woman sci-fi character, and I put our queen, and I put Avasarala GIF. Holden, don't put your dick in it, or something like that. And then Shoei replied with a kiss emoji. And they got a bunch of likes. So that's the kind of stuff that you can get on the kind of interactive stuff that you can get. And like I said, we were lucky. We didn't think we had a chance in hell to interview Steven and Wes last year, and they were so nice to share. They were so cool to us. Just acted like normal human beings, and they didn't have to come to the interview, because there was only literally me and Ashaya and another outlet, and they decided to come, and they were going to come regardless if it was even just me and Ashaya. So big props to that. Just super cool people. Much respect for that, because we know, especially at conventions, you become busy, you're signing autographs, you're probably meeting with 1,000 people, and for them to take half an hour out to just sit down with us and talk about season 5 was one of the coolest experiences. So
yeah. So yeah, go check that out.
Go check it out. And hopefully you enjoyed this. We hope that you're having a great week so far and a great Friday. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video, you can go check out Shay's content. She makes amazing content, and it's also a great Twitter follow. You can follow this channel by liking, or you can subscribe to the channel. We're going to have more Expanse content. We got 7 more episodes, a lot of Expanse to go. And I got a Mandalorian live stream tomorrow with Aziz from History of Westeros is coming on as a special guest with Helen and I. Yeah, and we were talking about that. The Mandalorian's been, whew, that was great. So more sci-fi. It's been a great week for sci-fi fans. So thank you everyone for joining. We really, really appreciate it. We hope that you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week for another Expanse review. Have a great night. Oh, wrong.